speaking of later, we're there. So, this for about 10 years, Hamilcar rules southern Spain. He eventually dies in battle. Then, for a couple of years, his son-in-law rules. Then he dies too, and Hannibal, the son of Hamilcar, the kid who took the blood oath, is now in charge of the Carthaginian lands in Spain. And he's like, dude, I'm not just going to sit here. I took an oath to attack Rome. I'm going to start going after Rome. And he goes to this area called Saguntum, which was a Greek colony that was established right on the border of what we would call Spain and Italy today. And he lays siege on them. And they're friends with Rome. He's not supposed to do that. And it's like kind of on the other side of the Ebro River. He says, no, they're on our side. The Romans say, no, they're on our side. You can't attack them, but he attacks them anyway. And the Romans are so caught up conquering Macedonia and the areas of Greece that they can't go and help them. And they leave the people of Saguntum to starve out and die. Pretty bad. But then after they take it, Rome now contacts him and says, hey, that wasn't cool. You took our land, you broke the treaty. And they demand Hannibal for justice. They want to put him on trial. And says to Carthage, a representative goes to the Senate of Carthage and says, in one hand, I'm holding peace. In the other side, I'm choosing war. I'm holding war. You have to choose one. And the people of Carthage, the Senate, all scream, war, we want war. And now they go to war again with the Romans. And the people of Carthage were hungry for it. And they thought with Hannibal, they had a guy who could finally beat the Romans. Well, Hannibal knows that the Roman army and now the Roman navy is formidable. So he has to break rules in order to try to beat them. And he does a few moves that would just seem to be impossible. Most notably, he attacks where the Roman army is its weakest because the Romans feel they have natural defenses, and that's in their north. In the north of Italy, you might remember geographically, is the Alps, the rugged, snow-capped mountains, right? Well, he figures if I can go over the Alps, climb those mountains, and then get into northern Italy, I'll have a clear shot to Rome. Nothing can stop me. They have a weak army there. They're sending all their armies into southern Spain to attack us and to Carthage. So he goes for where their weakest spot is. But you have to climb mountains in order to do that. So in order to do that, he employs a unique weapon of war. And that is the war elephant. To be able to climb and carry massive amounts of people and supplies. Now, it's definitely a roll of the dice, and he loses tens of thousands of his soldiers doing this. But in the end, when he gets to northern Italy, the Romans are completely unprepared. Now, remember, you're an Italian farmer who's serving in the Roman military. You're up in the northern outpost. You haven't seen much of the world. You don't really know much about the world. You might not even be literate. And then all of a sudden, this army comes at you with these massive beasts with tusks that are gray, that are stories tall, that are making these screeching sounds, where the soldiers that are on them can be shooting you from far above you. You can imagine that for the Romans, it's almost like fighting monsters. It's pretty crazy. Hannibal now just punishes the Romans in the north. He dominates in multiple battles. He just wipes out tens of thousands of Roman soldiers. It's really not going well for them. So the Romans, time of emergency, name a dictator with one of the best names in history ever. Quintus Fabius Maximus. What a great name. And Fabius, he kind of says, if I send my armies right to Hannibal, if I give him what he wants to fight us, we're going to lose. So instead, I want to try to get him to use up all of his supplies, to use up all of his soldiers, to wait him out, kind of like what they did with Hannibal's dad. And this is working at first. Hannibal's draining his supplies, he's draining his troops, he's going all over northern Rome to northern Italy, to try to keep outmaneuvering the Roman army. At one point, to get bogged down in swamps. Some of his soldiers drown in the swamp in their sleep. His eyes get so horribly infected with a disease-carrying bug from the swamps that he has to cut out one of his own eyes. Hannibal, I mean, that's tough. You cutting out your own eye because it's so infected, and he's draining a lot of his supplies. But the Romans, the Senate, and the people of Rome are getting impatient. They want Hannibal's head on a stick. They want Hannibal dead. He's been killing their people. They want Fabius to attack him. And Fabius says, wait. His Fabian strategy. But nope. The Romans finally say no, and they replace him with Paulus, one of his commanding generals. And Paulus is like, I'll go attack Hannibal. And he puts together the largest army to go into a battle in that time period ever in history. We're talking about hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people all going into a battle. And they find Hannibal's forces at Cannae. Well, Hannibal is greatly outnumbered. The Romans probably have 30 to 40,000 more soldiers. Maybe overestimated hundreds of thousands, but they're coming into the battle with about 80,000. He has less than 50,000. So he's outnumbered by about 30,000 people. And on paper, you'd think the Romans are going to just crush Hannibal's army, but he suckers them in. And what is one of the greatest upsets in military history, a outnumbered army tricks the Romans. He puts his weakest soldiers, his weakest part of his forces, in the center. Usually you'd put your strongest. And when they start falling back, the Romans push forward. And Paulus, to try to overwhelm Hannibal, basically bunches up all of his troops to basically try to force them down Hannibal's throat. So as they push through the weakest part of Hannibal's army, the strongest parts come around their flank, and now they're completely surrounded. They're encircled. There's nowhere for the Roman army to go. And it becomes the worst slaughter of an enemy army in history. 80,000 soldiers went into battle that day. About 3,000 survive. That's crazy. One day. And among the people killed in Rome, or among a number of their generals and leaders, Hannibal sends like a pile of gold back to Carthage of all the bracelets of the Roman aristocrats and leaders that he killed in that battle in one day. So Rome now is in a panic. What the heck are we going to do? Hannibal pretty much has them on their knees. And you would think that he would just march to Rome. But remember that this is kind of a war that's not outside of Italy at this point as well. The Carthaginians were in Spain, they're in Africa, they're in islands in the Mediterranean. In those areas outside of Italy, the Carthaginians are not giving the army support. The government still is corrupt, and it's messing around. And in those places, we see that they're really taking a beating, especially by this guy, General Scipio. General Scipio, who is eventually going to be called Scipio Africanus, because he's going to claim northern Africa for Rome. First, beats Hannibal's brother in Spain. He kills him. Has Hannibal's brother's head and hands thrown in Hannibal's camp to taunt him. Like, it's messed up. And then with Spain out of the way, He then attacks Carthage. Carthage is now under attack by the Roman navy. They're about to fall, and they call Hannibal. So Hannibal's about to get what he wanted his whole life, to take over Rome, his whole life's purpose, the oath that he dedicated his life to. And now he has to walk away from it and get on a ship and try to save Carthage. And he gets there too late. The Battle of Zama. Scipio beats Hannibal, and Rome wins the war. Here you see the Battle of Zama, which is like fought in the desert with these two massive armies, elephant, cavalry. Also, it's just a crazy scene. And here you see Scipio, a bronze statue of him. Creepy ivory eyes in that bronze statue. I gotta say, it definitely is pretty creepy. That's just me. So now Carthage has lost 2 wars. Now they're effectively part of the empire. Hannibal has to basically flee. Eventually, he dies poisoning himself because people are coming after him. And Carthage is just trying to go along and do his thing and try to rebuild its wealth after losing the war. But so many Roman senators, after those other 2 wars, feared it and wanted to wipe Carthage from the earth and kept looking for an excuse to find it. And at the start of the Third Punic War, which basically is drummed up just for the reasons of going to destroy Carthage, the Romans siege, attack, surround Carthage for 3 years. Eventually, when they take the city, they level it. They destroy it. It becomes a flattened earth. Every male in the city is killed. Any women or children who are surviving are enslaved. They salt the farmland so nothing can grow there. It is a almost genocidal wipeout of the people of Carthage by the Romans to end the Punic War. If you look, this is a depiction of what Carthage looked like in its heyday. Its massive port, which was a engineering feat, and afterwards it was just laid asunder by the Romans. Pretty sad. But after the Punic War, we see that Rome is now the dominant power in the Mediterranean, and there's nothing standing in their way. And with the military experience of having 120 years of war, building a navy, amassing an army that could be able to meet any powerhouse and destroy them, their experience through the Punic War on land and by sea empowers them to be able to conquer anybody that stands in their way. And now they start conquering. They'll eventually spread as far north as the British Isles, throughout France, what is today Germany, much of the Middle East, and Africa. And everywhere they go, they're going to spread their culture throughout the world. So the fact that you're speaking English, which has Latin roots, that is a result of the Punic War. If the Romans lose, if Hannibal's able to take Rome, and if they lose, we would probably be speaking derivatives of Phoenician. The legal systems and legal terms and the idea of a republic that our country is founded on, that all comes from Rome. So that Roman influence comes as a result of the Punic Wars. Here we see what Rome looks like immediately afterwards, but eventually it's going to expand into a massive, massive empire. And that's one of the things we're going to be exploring in our next unit. So, your questions for the unit: who was Hannibal Barca? And give one way that the results of the Punic Wars left Rome in a position to build a massive empire. So, I hope you have a marvelous weekend, and I've enjoyed so far exploring the Roman Republic, because next week we're going to have the Roman Republic fall and become a dictatorship and empire. Have a great one, everybody.